Okay, let's talk about this B-17. When you turn around, you'll see it's called the City of Savannah. The people in Savannah had a war bond rally and raised $500,000. And that was enough to buy it, that was enough to assemble a B-17 and train the crew. So that's what they did. And so the group called it the City of Savannah. They hunted around for some crew members that were from Georgia. They found a pilot and a navigator. So they, as it took off, they went to England in December of '44 and got to Iceland, and aircraft fell apart. The engines were in trouble. Anyhow, the crew was transferred to another aircraft. They went to England and flew 12 missions, were finally shot down. The crew, one crew member was killed, the rest were POWs, but they survived the war. That was City of Savannah #1. This is City Savannah #2. This aircraft was not assembled until 5 days after the war in Europe ended. And it was flown from California to Syracuse, New York.
Yay.
We have no idea why. The suspicion is that one of the pilots had a girlfriend in Syracuse, New York.
That happens.
Because it then went back to Oklahoma. And I'll tell you about the purchase. There were two guys in an officers club, and they'd been there most of the afternoon, and somebody walked through and said, hey, they're selling B-17s for $350. So these guys went through their pockets and they had enough money, so they bought a B-17. Then they found out it had no fuel. So they went back to their hometown, Hazen, North Dakota, and worked for 4 months, got enough money to get fuel. One of the guys backed out. He took advantage of the GI Bill, so the other pilot had to find another buyer, which he did. And they took the aircraft back to Hazen, and Hazen had an airport, but it was grass. They didn't want to land a new airplane on grass, so they landed on the main street. And they parked it in the high school parking lot. And it was used for firefighting, and it was used for mapping. And it went through about 4 different owners. Before it was flown from Arizona back to Dulles, back to Washington, to the Air and Space Museum, and was put in storage for 25 years. And in 2008, President Bush was here. I think it was a political tour of some kind, but he came back here in the afternoon, and he spent about 3.5 hours with us. And when he was going out the door, he said, what can I do for all you fellows? And we said, get us a B-17. And we have no idea if he had anything to do with it. But in December, we got a telegram from the Air and Space Museum, and it said, we have a B-17 for you. Sign this legal document and have it notarized, and answer these 4 questions. The first one was, you will never fly this airplane. We had to agree to that. Second was, it will be used for education. That wasn't a problem. It would be indoors. It would be in shelter. We signed it. We weren't sure that we could do that. We had to take a wall out to get part of it in, and we had to take about 18 inches off the top of the tail to get it through there. But we did it. And then you had to have money to come up and take it apart, put it on trucks, reassemble it. And we had 2 very nice donations, so we covered that. This is what the aircraft looked like when we were. It was in storage. By the way, there was a spacecraft parked next to it, and it was filthy, covered with interior had all kinds of stuff, dead animals, bird, all kinds of stuff. Anyhow, they put it on 6 trucks, brought it down I-95, and we got it inside. And that's the story with this. We have a restoration crew. These are guys that some had been in the Air Force and were mechanics, ground crews. A couple of the guys are from Gulfstream across the runway here, and their fathers had been in the 8th Air Force. So anyhow, the crew has miraculously put the thing back together. All of the gun turrets operate, and this number 3 engine was feathered. When they were flying it into Washington, they were put in a holding pattern because of bad weather. The pilot feathered number 3 to try to save gasoline. Number 4, by the way, they had to put a new engine in to get it to Washington, so that engine only has about 7 hours on it. That would be worth a lot of money. We thought maybe we could sell that, but the historian said, no, that's part of the history of the aircraft. You'll leave it the way it is. So that's what it is. This aircraft, this B-17, one man was killed. The aircraft, with all that damage, made it back to England. The bombardier, of course, was killed. And he went to the same high school I went to in Pittsburgh, and my cousin Miriam dated him for 2 years. So, that was George Abbott was his name. So that always gets to me when I think about that.